Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. Welcome back to the Staff Entrance Show. This is the show where we take a look at some of the people who work behind the scenes in the music scene in Cape Town and just chat about what their perspectives are on different things that go on around music scenes. Today, I'm very excited. I haven't seen our next guest in a long time. She's a really good friend of mine. Please welcome today's VJ, visual artist, Danielle Clough.
Hello.
We're not
We are coming towards the end of the COVID weirdness. So there is also, we've stayed alive before this.
Yes,
I think we're good.
We have, and we're heading into post-coronial times.
Post-coronial.
Good. It is. I wish I could
So
claim
good.
it. It's actually I'm repurposing somebody else's joke.
Nice. Well done.
Thanks.
It's a good one. I'm going to save that. Thanks so much for coming on the show. You look lovely, by the way.
Thank you.
We worked together on Uppercut many times with you as a VJ.
Yes.
You've done a lot of other things that we're going to touch on today. Embroidery is kind of your main thing. You've been a designer. But you also were quite involved in the music scene in little bits and pieces. You dabbled as a DJ. You dabbled.
Dabble. Yeah, dabble is a big word for what I did, but yes.
You were a co-host on the Assembly Radio
Yeah.
Uppercut show with myself and Metabolism. And even before that, you were very connected to people in the music scene. You were around a lot of events. Why is it that when you first decided to kind of do something, kind of participate in the music scene, that you were drawn to the visual as opposed to kind of the sound side of things?
Well, I think I've always been creative, even if I didn't really know it. From writing in diaries and going absolutely ham with glitter pens and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think around about 15, 16, I got given a really bad point and shoot camera. So my first entry into the music scene was through creativity, and it was actually through photography. So I was roughly 17 or 18, and I started a project with my then boyfriend called Fuck Off, I'm Raving. We had these amazing hand-knitted jerseys and everything, and we would take I had this idea of kind of being this kickback of Thunder.com.
Okay.
So Thunder was like this, would go around and they'd take these photos of everybody smiling, and it was to document parties. And this, I remember them being at all these under 18 parties, at Taboo and and foam parties and stuff.
Oh my God, foam parties.
The proper throwback. And then it was with that, I kind of wanted to document parties, because now I'm 17. I've been sneaking into clubs for a few years, and I'm like, this is amazing.
Right.
All my little puberty emotions are just through the roof. There are lights shining. Everybody looks like a demigod. There's smoke machines, and it's just unreal. And I was like, this needs to be documented.
I think that moment happens with a lot of people when they discover music scenes outside of their homes. It really kind of opens your mind up to wow, there's all this possibility out there. There's this hidden world that's been laid bare before you, and you want to tell everyone. You want to show it
completely.
Yeah.
And it's also, obviously now we fast forward a whole bunch of years, and we know what goes on behind the scenes.
Yes.
Hence our conversation.
Yeah.
But when you're there and it's new, all you have is the stimulation that comes with what people actually in eventing are trying to create and do create, which is this emotional sensory overload, whether it's through lights or visuals and sound and ambience and alcohol, whatever it is. Whatever. So I started this project with my then boyfriend called Fuck Off, I'm Raving, and we would go into events and take photos. And my whole thing was obviously shooting for the stars. I'm going to do this for 20 years and create a book, and it's going to be it's going to show how fashion changes and everything. And the whole point was
That's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, well, if you follow through for 20 years, but you get over it.
Right.
I actually got really kind of over having a camera at events, because at the same time, people's idea. It was initially documenting, and people weren't really used to having cameras around. And then the idea of having cameras at events became more popular. And then they were like the We Are Awesomes and the Thunders and the Cobra Snakes that became really popular. So then people were used to having their photos going onto Facebook albums, and everybody was posing.
It was almost a precursor to the Instagram like generation thing, yeah.
And it was the precursor to selfies, because people weren't taking photos of themselves, but they wanted photos of themselves. So then you would be tapped and people would be like, and you'd like fake flash. You press the flash button, they're like, can we see you? Like, sorry, what? Hoping the music was
so then it doesn't become so much about documenting, because your subject is aware and is
exactly
right.
But I still have these like amazing photos of like sweaty girls like dancing, having the best time, like full armpit hair, like it was just amazing. People passed out on couches. It was, I mean, I got tear gassed at a pop-up event.
Explain. No. Wait, we're gonna rewind.
Okay.
Explain to me how a pop-up event gets tear gassed.
I don't know. I mean, it was a vitamin water pop-up party.
I remember the vitamin water situation.
Yeah, and then people
was this a dubstep event?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
It was so long ago.
I went to that vitamin water like event thing was about a year maybe, where there were a couple of these, and I definitely went to one.
And people got absolutely,
I don't remember tear gas,
mental, because vitamin water is not your mate. It's not. It's like everyone's like, oh yeah, it's not holistic. It's basically like. It's like amphetamines, and then they would have a couple sips, throw in vodka because the vitamin water was free, and then things just popped off, and then everyone was tear gassed. Not tear gassed, pepper sprayed. Okay, tear gassing is maybe a bit traumatic.
Yeah, but still pepper sprayed.
Yeah. Anyway.
Because they were misbehaving.
Yeah.
off the vitamin water.
Vitamin water just made them absolutely mental. So that was kind of my intro into the event scene and the music scene. So for me, it's always been visual, if that makes sense. The music industry and my relationship with it has been like my experience with it and the way that it makes me feel, and then wanting to document that. And then it kind of evolved into actually creating that ambience and creating that emotion through visuals.
Right.
It also helps dating DJs, because then you're like...
you have a built-in network.
Yeah, and you're like stuck in the club. And you're like, well, I'm here now. I might as well fucking do something.
You might as well participate.
Yeah.
Right? So you get involved in VJing. Maybe just very briefly explain to some of the people in our audience who might not know what it is. What VJing involves and how it's different to like maybe you go to a club and they've got something on loop there.
Okay. So a VJ is a visual jockey who is somebody who creates live visuals at an event. So when you go to a festival and you see a band playing and there is a video behind them and it's moving to the music, and as something happens, like they say the word lightning strikes and then a lightning strikes and all of that, there is somebody at the back who potentially looks like me, sitting on a little chaos pad in front of a computer, just trying their best to make sure that all of those visuals and we'll have like a bank of visual clips are then triggered at the right moment to create that like audio visual relationship and experience, so that it's in sync and beautiful. Whereas something that has been pre-recorded, you can tell because it doesn't respond
to what's happening in the moment.
And that was your class.
So there's obviously a lot of preparation that goes into this, more so than I think maybe other fields. What is that like? Where are you drawing your inspiration from? Because you've got to prepare like a batch of visuals for an event. What are the things that you are looking at that kind of trigger your creativity? What gives you a spark?
I think in that world, I think what I would usually do is just like delve into things like Tumblr. And then Tumblr, and just look for Tumblr GIFs. And then you just find tons and tons of cool GIFs, and you'll see things that are like really rad, like 80s graphics. Sometimes they're taken out of like 80s like intros to bad adverts,
Okay.
And then you pull those GIFs and you use them, and then you start like going, oh, I really like that aesthetic. And then you go into like Vimeo, or start looking for like through archival networks like archival.org, and then just start pulling content from there.
Does your choice of where you're sourcing stuff change based on who the artist is that you know is going to be on the lineup? And then also, does your process change depending on whether it's a smaller event or if it's like a big festival? Because you've done
definitely.
You've done huge events and you've also done small ones.
Yeah. So what my kind of like system would be is to just gather like a ton of content. So you just sit and you just browse, and like that's obviously super fun, and it's all just kind of like stimulating yourself visually and just like pulling and building this bank of content. And then when it comes to like smaller events where maybe you don't know the DJ but you kind of know the genre, all the genres will change. So it might start out with like some down tempo, and then it like builds up, and then the night ends with like grinding trance. I don't know, I probably have left by then, but like, you know what I mean. And it's like that's how most kind of parties go, is there's like this build up and there's kind of like this ebb and flow. You've got this huge database of content which you've now categorized, everything from like circles to drops, you know, so depending on the energy of the clip, flowers, weed, you know, hip hop, like, so you categorize your clips, and then you can kind of go like, oh, okay, this is feeling a little bit more ambient, and you go to your ambient clips. Or if you're doing something that is like on bigger events, which are like for artists whose music you understand, then you can go and like pull things from this database and then go, okay, cool. So I'm going to do a show with Alvhinator. I know that he absolutely loves anime, and I know that he uses a lot of like vocal samples from
Kung Fu movies.
Yeah, Kung Fu movies.
Right.
Then you go, okay, cool, Kung Fu movies, da 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 da, and then you've got anime and Kung Fu, and then I'll have like colors, ambient drops, da da. And that way you can kind of gear it around the show, or you can just play as you want. And what ends up happening is that quite naturally you build an aesthetic and you build a system of how you want it to look and play, and it'll be how you experience music. Because I always think of it as dancing with pictures. So I know that I would always have like 3 layers of video, and there would be something like, there'd be an ambient layer, there'd be a drop, and then there would be like a kind of a visual layer which would tell a story. So that would change.
Wait, explain to me what an ambient layer is and what a drop is.
So an ambient layer to me would be like sparkles,
okay,
or like rain or something.
Snow or
like
something.
Snow,
right,
something like gentle that like moves slowly, because most music will have like a whatever, you know, something like slow, and then there would be like the drop, which is because it builds up, and then it's like, and then you play that like as the drop comes.
Okay, gotcha.
And then your kind of visual story layer would be maybe a loop of a sunset or something, or a loop of like a Arizona, a forest or a desert or something. So then you would play that, which would kind of tell the story. So that would connect to maybe, or like your Kung Fu movie. So you would play, and you play your ambient layer over that, and then you can kind of affect them so that they can move to the beat. And then as soon as the drop comes, you throw that in, and then it's like, whoa, and the energy of the visuals peaks with the energy of the music.
Okay, gotcha.
And then all of a sudden the drop goes, and it's like a quick drop, and you just pull your slider, and then you just got your sparkles.
At what point in your visuals do you insert the advertisements? No.
Never.
I say that because we have to go to an ad break right now. We'll be back with Danielle Clough just after this. Please stay with us, Danielle. We'll see you in a bit.
Magnavolt, the final word in auto security. No embarrassing alarm noise, no need to trouble the police. And it won't even run down your battery.
Magnavolt. Lethal response.
Thank you so much. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you, really. We're back with Danielle Clough, aka Fiancé Knowles. That was your VJ name.
Yeah.
Do you use that name for your other projects as well?
Yeah. So it's kind of it was my Instagram name, and then for other work, my Instagram kind of took off.
Yes.
And built up an audience quite quickly. And I was like, oh, this is the time to change it. And then I was like, no. Fiancé Knowles is kind of fucking
Actually,
amazing.
I want to talk about that Instagram for a bit. You're mainly known now as an embroidery artist, and you've become incredibly successful with that. You have a lot of followers on Instagram.
Yes.
Like a lot. You're like a verified Instagram
Yes.
person.
Yeah.
So you're doing your embroidery work. It's picking up, and then all of a sudden you're seeing the numbers start to really skyrocket. At what point did your social media become difficult to handle, and how did you deal with that?
It kind of ebbs and flows. It never really became difficult. I just have every now and then have times where it's difficult, and for different reasons. Some will be because I don't know how to manage the boundaries with my audience, so I'll answer everything that they ask me, and then you start going, actually I can't do this.
Just for some context, it's like 15,000, 20.
Currently currently 190,000.
Excuse me.
Well, as a disclaimer,
Yeah.
a large proportion of them are 11-year-old Jakartan boys who I don't think are there for the
embroidery.
avos.
Okay.
But,
Maybe.
Maybe. I mean, who am I to judge? But I think I just kind of got stuck in an algorithm problem. I also did some work for Instagram, and then because of that got a lot of kind of bot followers.
Still, that's a lot of people, right? If 5% are messaging you, if 5% of them are messaging you, that's a lot of messages. What are you doing?
What do I do to manage that?
You said you like at first you were trying to respond to everything.
Yeah, so I guess I created systems. So I then said, okay, I have a website and these questions will be on there, or this is my press page, or I now have an online class. So then if people want questions, then I'm like, you're more than welcome to do my online class, and all questions about like what needles do you use or whatever need to go through Skillshare, because that way then those questions benefit everybody.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So instead of you repeating yourself constantly, you've got the answers already somewhere to questions that you get a lot of.
Yeah. And then also kind of like being okay with keeping a bit of mystery and being allowed to have things to myself. And then also doing things like I do bulk shop updates, so I don't make things available one-to-one. So then that way I don't have to post something and then people ask me and then I have to manage all of these things. It's just like, on this day, the stuff will be available and then you can buy it there.
Okay.
So just kind of creating systems to manage it. But it's hard. I mean, there's other things. Obviously, there's like emotional factors, which is like the validation that comes with numbers, and then
how many likes am I getting?
And how much does this equate to like my success and all of that, which, with the algorithm coming in, I'm getting maybe a fraction of the engagement that I was getting 2 years ago when I had half the followers. So the I mean a fraction, going from getting 17,000 likes for a post to now 2,000. Wow. So then you've got to kind of go, well then how much of my success or my skills are validated by likes and all of that kind of stuff, which is quite
it's a tough thing.
It's a tough thing, yeah. So it's kind of like you've constantly got to keep yourself in check and keep yourself like aware of like how much this platform affects you, especially when they can literally turn off the tap tomorrow.
And then another aspect is that I want to get to is usually when an artist starts out in any field, they're using their personal account because you've got all your friends there and you want whatever information you're giving out to reach the most people.
Yeah.
So your personal is doubling up as your artist account.
Yeah.
When you have 100,000 followers, that clearly can't be the case. How are you?
I just keep all my personal stuff off there.
Right.
Yeah, I have my personal voice. It's very much like my real voice that's applied. But to me, it's like Instagram is a work tool. I don't see it as a social media tool. And my relationships with people are, as you know, sustained through like WhatsApp and like actual conversations. People who know me don't actually give a fuck about what I post on Instagram. If I'm honest. You know what I mean? Like nobody is like, oh my gosh, Dee, that's so amazing. You went to the beach today.
No.
You know what I mean?
Doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen. My friends are either at the beach with me or couldn't be bothered if I was at the beach or not. They're like, well, that's nice.
Another shift that I think is interesting to chat to you about is that, like, again, when you're a young artist or you're trying to you're getting a little bit of success, your work process is kind of different to once your project is really taken off. Yeah. You're in a position now where what you're doing with your embroidery is your business.
Yeah.
Right. Before that, you would maybe being a freelancer or maybe had a day job. Not you specifically, but that's a lot of artists. Yeah. At some point, when success comes, that's now your job and that's your business. What are some of the challenges and what are some of the benefits of that shift happening?
Well, I think one of the challenges is because I've dabbled in so many different things, from like photography, design, VJing, a lot of, you know, working a 9-to-5 kind of thing, waitressing. And I think the big challenge is I've killed things for myself. I've said yes to the wrong things. I've put a lot of unnecessary pressure on myself for certain things to be successful, having an idea of what success is. And that actually comes with not protecting something that you love. So I think the challenge of the thing that you love, like the process becoming a successful business, is then maintaining your passion for it.
Right.
And that comes with, and so you have actually like so much energy and like awareness has to go into like, how do I protect this thing that I love? How do I maintain its success? How do I keep open about it and keep sharing it, but in the same way protect it? So, you know, and keep it for myself.
Have you figured that out? I mean, do you do you have a little tips and tricks?
Learn what you need to say no to.
Okay.
Be okay with what your parameters are. So saying like, and doing it upfront and doing it kindly. So for example, if somebody's like, hi, we need 5 embroidered portraits and we need it by this date and this is our budget. Okay. Know that your budget is actually is or isn't going to work, and you can be nice. You can be like, within that budget I can make 3, and then go and know like it's going to take me this amount of time. If I say I'm going to do it to your thing and then try to do it quicker than I can, I'm going to hate the process, you know. So I'm going to be forcing it for someone else to do something that then is probably going to be subpar because I haven't given it enough time. So just say to people, for me to deliver the best work, I need X amount of time. For me to do it within this way, I need X amount of money. So just kind of knowing yourself, I guess.
Have you had to take on board assistants at any point yet?
Yes, I have assistants, not with my actual production, but with like the maintaining the system. So I have artist admin who deal with my website and my shipping and everything like that. And then other just little things that I have.
How does someone know when it's the time to get someone to help? I mean, okay, how did you know?
When you can afford it. And it's like time, right? So it's like, oh shit, I'm spending 2 days a week packaging things, going to the post office, emailing people, and it's like, what can I do within those 2 days? Within those 2 days, I can make this, which I can sell for that. So then
it's worth paying someone else.
Because then I would be making a profit.
You have worked with some really high-profile clients. I see you wearing the Gucci sneakers.
They're me.
The custom.
They're so fucked. I walk in the forest with them. It's a problem.
Look at that flex, guys. Look at that flex.
It's a lack of respect that I have for shoes more than anything.
Hiking through the forest in custom Gucci embroidered Fiancé Knowles.
You know what happens?
Wow.
When you get shit for free, you don't have respect for it.
Obviously. No respect for Gucci, so that answers that. No, I'm kidding. But you know, you've worked for Kanye West. You've worked for Drew Barrymore. These are pretty high-profile people and brands. Is your process different when you're having to deal with them, or maybe not even your process? Does it feel different when you're having to do work for a client that's that high profile or that successful in their field?
No, I'm also part of the protection strategy is
Of protecting your passion and business.
protecting your passion and what you do and the work that you put into the world and everything is making sure that you say yes to the jobs that feel good.
Okay.
So whether that job is for a friend who wants to commission me or somebody who's emailed me and someone's passed away and it would mean a lot to them, X, Y, and Z, or whether it's for Adobe, the process is that kind of like, if I'm in love with the idea, then I say yes, and then I take it on with the same kind of mindset. And then also making sure that the parameters from the expectations from the brand and me, or the person and me, are like aligned.
That they match up. Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, to be honest, the big brands, the ones specifically like the international brands and people, have a lot of respect for the creative process. So it's actually a pleasure working with them.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've been very lucky. But I also am very good at like fielding those emails that like you're like, this ain't gonna go down well.
I want to jump back to music just for a second. When you were doing visuals, particularly the smaller events, you're spending a lot of time behind the decks. I think people might not know this, but VJs spend like 3-4 hours there on a 5-hour night. Maybe you've got a loop on at the beginning or at the end, but you're spending a lot of time behind the decks. Is there anything that you were surprised by in terms of what DJs do or what it's like being in that position on a stage that maybe you didn't expect when you were on the other side? Things that you noticed that DJs do, or, I don't know.
I think they're nerves. I think their nerves for a set I was always quite surprised by, because you always see this like confidence and this like bopping. This like bopping of like sheer, like, I get it, I'm like so into what I do. And then actually seeing them before a set and then being like, have I got the right cable?
Is that something that applied to you? Did you get quite nervous before you had to do something on stage?
Yeah, definitely. And in fact, I actually got progressively more and more nervous as I got better. I think my expectations for what I was supposed to be doing, and how I felt like I should be performing, got higher and higher, and then my enjoyment of it got less.
So I find that surprising, because when I asked you about all these high-profile clients you were doing embroidery work for, nerves never came up at all.
No.
But being in front of people and being on a stage, even when you were getting better, seemed to kind of get to you a bit more.
I think it's the instant response,
right?
That makes a difference. And then, I mean, also, which is so strange, because as a VJ, you're decor, essentially. Yeah. You're basically just like
lovely
living
decor.
Yeah. It's like, but I always think of it as like the difference between you go to a club and you can either sit on a crate or you sit on a couch. Yeah. At the end of the day, the couch is definitely going to add to your experience there, but you're not going to go home and talk about it.
Right.
So it's kind of like although some people think that that's the case, be like, people haven't stopped talking about my visuals at the Synergy set in 2014. They definitely stopped speaking about it. So, but besides that, like, I don't know where the nerves kind of started like creeping in, and my expectations of my performance. So if I missed a drop, or if I played the wrong clip, or I knew there was a better clip, I would be really, really hard on myself about it. And I can't even imagine what it's like as a DJ, because you literally can kill a dance floor by playing the wrong song. Right. So I think like that's something I can relate to, and that was something that was surprising to me when I connected with DJs and people, performers or bands, because also actually as a VJ, you're there for like 10 hours. Right. So you're there for setup. So you're there at 8. If the doors open at...
Are you there at sound check as well?
You usually, depending on what the setup is, So if you've got like a big projection or you're mapping, then you pre-do it, then you'll come so that the visuals are playing as the club opens, and then you play it loop maybe for an hour or two while people filter in, and then you play all night until close.
So sorry, I said like 3-4. It's more like...
It's like 9,
I mean, depending how long the event is.
Yeah, totally. And if you're the only VJ. Because sometimes other events will have 2 or 3 or you'll play back to back with someone.
What's the relationship like with other VJs?
Amazing. Yeah. In my experience.
Because there aren't many of you, so I imagine you all know each other.
Yeah, we do.
At least in this scene?
Yeah, in Cape Town. I was put on by Anthea Juice at the cold turkey parties.
Shout out Deuce.
Thank you, Anthea. She is one of the co-founders of Cold Turkey, and so she literally, I was told, expressed interest, and she was like, come to a Cold Turkey and I'll show you, and just like let me play live, let me like press buttons and like pull sliders and stuff, which was really incredible. So she just kind of made it feel so comfortable, and then I would play the Cold Turkey parties, and that was where I got like most of my practice and built it up, and we did a lot of stuff together.
Okay.
So she's kind of like to me was like the guiding light. And then Spooky, also incredibly open.
Shout out Spooky.
and Inca, the girl.
Shout out Inca.
And everybody is just like super open and super friendly and very giving with their knowledge and stuff like that. So
Honestly, the people you've named are some of the people I like hanging out with at festivals the best.
Kind, open, generous.
Yeah.
Fun.
I think there's a lesson. You're like, often everyone's like, oh, I've got to meet this artist from overseas. I've got to meet this guy. I want to be literally at the staff entrance. I want to be with the VJs and the other DJs.
Totally.
Yeah.
And like the people who make everything work have always got like such strong characters. I mean, you can smell a sound guy. Like you can see that guy's in a monster hat. He's unpredictable. That's a sound guy.
This talk show still has a little bit of a tabloid feel to it.
Okay.
And so we want to get into your personal life a little bit. But we're going to let you have a drink first. And we're going to go to this break. If you want to find out what's going on with Danielle Clough, don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this break.
Dismantled your MX stockpile.
Pakistan is threatening my border.
That's it, Buster. No more military aid.
Nuke 'em. Get them before they get you. Another quality home game from Butler Brothers. It's back. Big is back, because bigger is better. 6000 SUX, an American tradition.
So much. We are back, the Staff Interest Show with Fiancé Knowles. This has gone so fast.
I know.
But we do have a couple more questions before we let you go. We want to get a little bit into the personal side of our guests. You are dating a lovely guy named Adam.
Yep.
He works in the film industry, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, for myself, I know a little bit for you as well. We've both tended to date people that are in creative fields.
Yes.
Do you find that that's something that's, is it easier? Is it just that, that those are just your social circles and you happen to meet people like that? Or is it something about connecting with people that do something? I mean, everything is creative, but maybe in the arts area.
I don't know. I have no idea. I think I've also asked myself this question.
Okay.
I think it might be circumstantial. I think it might come with what you end up talking about that makes sense. I don't necessarily think it's a good thing.
To only have a universal
you always end up dating creative people, because I think that there's a lot of value to the so my current partner, so Adam, who is amazing. Hi Adam.
Shout out Adam.
Has quite a strong business mind as well.
Okay.
So he's creative, but he's got like a very, very he comes from a very big business kind of background, and it's been incredibly beneficial to me, and the way that he's been able to break things down, which has really been cool. So I'm like, hang on, what about all these artist types?
Maybe a couple of lawyers and accountants.
Exactly. Maybe an engineer. Maybe I need some more engineer friends, so I think, I'm not too sure why. I've definitely asked myself, but I think it has a lot to do with like your circle of friends, what you end up talking to people, and your like kind of life priorities.
Let's shift away from dating, just in general, like in your friend circles. Do they also tend to be people that are in the arts as opposed to, other fields?
Yes,
or are those just the ones you spend more time with? Or
I think it varies. I think it's changed a lot now that I've hit my 30s. Very late 20s.
Yes, of course.
I think it's changed a lot. I think my priorities have changed, and I think like the kind of, I don't know,
your friends' priorities might change as well,
your friends' priorities, but also my idea of my identity has changed.
Okay.
So like, I think when you're in your 20s, I mean, I even think about like clothing and fashion and how like vehemently aggressive I was about like not looking like anyone else, to the point that I wore some fucked up items.
I don't know. I thought your fashion sense was on point, but
but it was also aggressively counterculture.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, it could not. If I had seen something on somebody else, I'm like, I'm gonna burn this. I don't care if I've got nothing else to wear now.
I like that. You were very much aggressively counterculture.
Aggressively, and it was so much a part of my identity, right? And I was like, people who are like me and act like me and think like me, those are the people that I connect with. Right. And now I'm like, that's some bullshit, because people are amazing, whether they like only want to wear like all black, I don't know, Zara attire, or they want to, you know what I mean, or just everybody's in like Cape Union Mart, it doesn't matter. It's like, it's the person underneath, and somebody else's kind of affiliation with culture and what they do with their time and how they dress and how they identify isn't a reflection of me. And I'm like, as I've gotten older, as one gets a little bit older,
we like to give advice to the young people out there, so this is good stuff.
Start to see underneath that like actually a good person is a good person, no matter whether they've got like, I don't know, whatever,
what they're wearing or what they do for a living.
Yeah, whether they're goths or they're like mountaineers, it's like the same.
You, in my observation at least, have always kind of managed to, let's say, fit in with the boys crowd. Like when I'm talking about the boys crowd, I mean in the music scene, right?
What's that?
People say it's a boys club. They are correct. There are far too many men around, and my observations are with women who are involved in those scenes as well, is that they tend to have to adjust their personalities a little bit to try and fit in, or completely withdraw themselves and are just like, well, I'm in this music scene, but I'm just doing my own thing.
Yeah.
My impression is that you've always managed to kind of fit in, but not lose any of your own womanness or femininity or whatever you want to call it. Do you think that's a fair assessment? And how do you feel that you've managed to do that?
I don't know.
I mean, do you feel comfortable?
Yeah. I mean, I feel I don't. If I look at my circle of friends inside the music industry and outside, they're very much boys and girls.
Right.
I think it helps not wanting to shtup anybody. That's kind of like if you are not like on the chase, it helps.
Yeah.
And if you're very good at fielding anything where it starts to cross certain boundaries, you know, like drawing lines, being like, oh yeah, no, I'm completely unavailable, but like, cool, we're cool.
But we can work together.
We're cool. Like if you're cool and you can just like rein your shit in, then we can keep going. And if not, like then the line is drawn.
And you have no problems with burning bridges.
No.
In that regard.
No, but and like in the exact same way of like in the exact same way as sending those emails and protecting your work.
Right.
It's the same thing of like setting certain boundaries in a kind way. And I'm not saying as a woman you have to be kind to tell a guy to fuck off. Yeah. I'm just saying like a lot of the times I mean this is one aspect of it, is like the kind of like the sexual tension kind of stuff where you are seen as a woman and as
object to be acquired.
An object to be acquired, and that kind of seems to be like the first filter. And once you crack through that, then it's like, oh, okay, cool, what is she, you know, which is not right that you have to do that.
Right.
But also it's not one-sided. So that's, I mean, at least not in my experience or in my opinion. So I think, yeah, it's the same thing of like, just kindly, but like firmly being like, you're cool, we can be cool, but like, that's not an option. And then you just go from there. And I think, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just my personality or, but yeah.
But I guess what I'm getting at is like, I've never got the impression that you felt particularly uncomfortable. Because, you know, let's say you were at a festival, right? Yes, a lot of the VJs, maybe women, but the rest of the crew is pretty much guys.
Yeah.
DJs especially, behind the scenes guys.
It's behind the scenes guys that you deal with mainly. So
right.
I mean, especially if you're playing like a big festival, you're front of house, you set up with the lighting guys and the sound guys and everything. I think specifically in that kind of environment, the best thing to do is to like understand the ego play, to not play into it, but also to not fight it. So like, it comes to things like asking questions. So like whenever I'm front of house, those guys work so hard, like especially at a festival to
Sorry,
build.
just short. And when you say front of house for our audience, I mean.
So front of house is where the sound and the lighting and everything is set up. So if there's like the stage, it's usually a couple meters behind the stage, and that's where like all the technical stuff is happening.
You'll often see like a big square black thing with a bunch of people sitting in it, and you're like,
then,
oh, I didn't know this was here.
Yeah, normally because you like back up on the railings and there's someone.
Because it's meant to blend in.
Yeah. Only like the very drunk guys at the end of the night find it. They're like, turn it up. But so those guys, I mean, are usually the ones who can potentially be like the hardest and like the most dick.
Right.
So you get there and they're like, oh, for fucking chicks here to come and just cause cunt. And you're like, hey, hi, how you guys? How long have you been here? Because most of the time they've been there for 2 days setting up the stage.
They're miserable. They're like, and they get no accolades for what they do. The whole festival is run off their hard work. Right.
And everybody is jawling, and one DJ is at the front, and everyone's like, it's amazing. And they're like, well, actually, he's amazing because we made him sound amazing. So it's kind of like you go in and you're just like, you ask a couple questions, how they're doing, and also like be curious about what their environment is.
And that disarms them.
And it just, it disarms them, and they're like, oh, okay, she's not another diva who's going to push here and make our lives difficult. Ask them questions, ask for help. I mean, I've literally kicked off the power to a festival and people have been fine with it. Because you're like, they know you and you've asked questions. Yeah, okay. Literally. They set me up in front of the generator to the lights and sound, and I just swung and I went and pressed the off button. Why is there an off button to a whole festival?
You know what, honestly, that's their problem. Like, their feng shui was not, their layout was not done very well.
They didn't Marie Kondo it.
I want to get, before we don't have a lot of time, but I do want to touch on one subject. You've been expanding into teaching quite a bit.
Yes.
You were just telling me it's been, especially now during this COVID period, it's something that picked up a little bit. How did you get into it? What do you like about it? What are you teaching?
So I teach embroidery. I teach beginners embroidery, which is like, it started off when I first started embroidery, and I used to get a lot of requests. I was kind of one of the first people to be a part of the like contemporary embroidery resurgence. So a lot of people being like, hey, how do you do this? And I was like, how do I make rent and tell people? Okay, cool. And I started this like embroidery workshop, and it's kind of built, and I've done a few embroidery tours.
These are live workshops.
Live workshops, yeah. So I've done a few around Cape Town. I've done some in Joburg. I've done a tour in Australia, which is really cool. And then end of last year, I was, or nearly a year ago, I was asked to do one of the Skillshare original classes, which is like an online teaching platform.
Okay.
So then I flew to New York and we filmed the class, and then it launched in Feb. So the whole thing is just basically how to embroider for beginners, but kind of my ethos in my classes, most of all my work is really how to get people to find their own style, to find their own voice, to implement their own kind of like vision, and build confidence in them so that they can experiment.
This is something that our audience can find online right now?
Oh yeah, so you can find it on Skillshare, just under Danielle Clough, or my links are in my Instagram, which is Fiancé _Knowles, or my website, danielleclough.com.
What else is coming up? What are you working on? And off air, we were talking about you stocking up your store again.
Yeah. So I do a shop update. I basically build up stock between like jobs and commissions and stuff. I just do stuff for fun that I love, and then those pieces go online for sale.
What date are they going up? Do you know?
23rd
Of
next Wednesday.
September.
Yeah. So I don't know if this will be up by then.
I don't think. No, I think we're just gonna miss it.
Because
you sell out very quickly usually.
Yeah, usually.
But look, check it out anyway.
Yeah,
there might be a couple
prints
left.
online and stuff, which I think I'm super like. I love my prints.
Okay, so the prints are always available.
Always available. Yeah.
All right.
And then I'm trying to think if there's anything else kind of big coming up. I'm working on a series of portraits called Midnight Names, which is like
Midnight Names.
Yeah. So my which actually kind of plays into the music scene and like the idea of like needle names or music names. So my dad and his best friend always laugh whenever they meet any of me and my friends because they're like, "What's your midnight name? What's your after 12 name?"
Right.
So like you would be the Alvhinator.
Gotcha, like your alias.
Your alias, which kind of used to be reserved only for musicians or prominent people.
Graffiti artists.
But people who had like has been able to establish themselves and then it was validated. But now we are self-proclaimed midnight names, and we're not self.
It's like an internet thing, right? Everyone had a handle,
a
gamer handle or whatever.
Yeah. So I'm doing portraits of people within their kind of midnight names, which are their alter egos.
Oh, that's so good.
Thanks. So like adding layers and stuff like that. So my first portrait was Sujin, who we know as Tujin.
Yes.
So it's a portrait of her, but it's like a reflection. So there's two versions of her, and it's in the shape of a moon because she loves the moon. So that's
Ladies and gentlemen, this is why Danielle Clough is Danielle Clough, Fiancé Knowles. I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, so I'm slowly building this up, and they're the biggest portraits I've done, and I want to like in time do a show of this with like all the people I love again, you know?
That's kind of what I'm doing here.
Hey yo!
Hey! Danielle Clough, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen of the audience, thank you so much. You've been amazing. All the folks back home, please tune in again next time for the Staff Entrance Show.